Hey guys, how's it going? It's me here, Zach, aka Jazzy Zin, aka Master of Mono Red, and I'm here bringing you the last part of a three-part series on how to win more Mono Red Edition. As you see, I have my lights all set up to be in theme too for today. So, yeah, today's last bit is going to be on matchups and what you're going to sideboard against them, why, and yeah, all of that will be covered in today's video. Before that, though, we should really talk first about why you should be playing best of 3 and not best of 1 if you want to climb. Now, best of 1, it's good if you're playing mono red. You get a lot more chances to win. Going first is very beneficial with this deck. Having people have less options to sideboard against you is also pretty good. But overall, I think if you're wanting to grind out the ladder and get higher ranks, get those packs, do whatever you want, be the next #1 mythic person, I definitely suggest playing best of 3, and I'll tell you why. So when you win 2 games and lose 1 in best of 1, you net gain 1 point, right? Unless you're lower in the rankings where you go up 2 and whatnot. And you don't lose any. But once you start able to gain 1, lose 1, gain 1, you essentially, so if you win 2, lose 1, you go up net 1. If you're doing that in best of 3, you get 2 wins in your game that you play against somebody, but you lost 1 of them, you still go up 2 points. So rather than being net 1 win, you're net 2. So in that term, in that regard, it is just a much better system for climbing in best of 3. That coupled with your sideboard gives you a lot better chances of winning the match, and especially if you go first. If you have 2 games going first, then you're gaming as an aggro deck. So that's just a little quick introduction onto why you should play best of 3 and not best of 1. So yeah, let's just hop in straight into the material. I'm gonna bring up this document real quick, and we're gonna talk about the matchups, each in detail, and why you should be sideboarding, what I think you should be sideboarding. Alrighty guys, before we fully jump into this part of the tutorial, I just want to give a disclaimer that these are my ideas, these are my suggestions for you, and of course you shouldn't always just follow them blindly. If you're, say, playing in a tournament on like an online website that gives you somebody's deck list, well then you should adjust what you're siding against them to meet that deck list. Yeah. Other than that, I think these suggestions will really help you on ladder, especially on ranking up, because people just like mainly net deck, and there's not so many original decks out there. There's far and few in between, and this will give you a general guide of how to conquer these decks through your sideboard and in best of 3. So with that being said, let's hop on into the first of our matchups, which is rogues. Now, rogues can be very frustrating to play against. They have climbed to the top of the meta shortly after Omnath is banned. They have multiple ways to win. They can mill you, they can like out tempo you, they can do all these ways to like win that are really annoying. And the worst spot you can be in as a mono red player is when you play creature. They negate. You have no more mana, can't do anything else. Their turn, they pass, you play creature, they negate. You lose that 100% of the time. Like, you might as well just instantly concede, get on to the next one so that you can go first and just win. But yeah, it's really hard to beat them when you're in that position, but there are a few cards that you can side against them to make sure that doesn't happen. So what are these? The first thing you want to start siding in against these guys is the escape creatures. Escape creatures are super strong against the rogues, because they feel your graveyard. A lot of these cards you wouldn't run normally, but you can in your sideboard because rogues activate them. For example, the Ox of Agonis. That card isn't what you want to be running in mono red, but when it's in your graveyard, thanks to somebody else putting it in there, it totally is. 2 mana, it's like a 5/3, and then you draw 3 cards. It's an awesome reload. And most of the time you're discarding like some extra lands or something, and you're just plussing. And it's all thanks to them playing rogues. So that card is really beneficial in the matchup, and I like to put in 2 of those. I have it labeled here as bird, but the Phoenix of Ash is also another good escape creature that can help you interact with their board and like soak up a lot of their removal, because it is such a threat to their deck and playstyle that it has to be dealt with. The bird is a 3/3 when it escapes, and that kills every single creature of theirs. that's flying or like even on the ground. So it is a real big threat, and they need to take care of it, and that's why it's a pretty good sideboard card. Last one is the Scorching Dragonfire. This card is really good because they have a lot of recursion in the rogues now. They have like Call of the Death Dweller, and they have Lurrus, and they have the new Agadeems, whatever the lands that brings back all these creatures. So having a way to deal 3 damage, which is important because all the creatures die to that, and exile their creatures is super strong against them. So I like to do a full 7-card side against them, and it usually works out pretty well. For most of the guide, you'll kind of understand like my reasoning for what to take out, but I'll go ahead and explain it real quick. I normally take out 1-drops, and you might be thinking, well, you need your 1-drop so you can get your Ember Cleave and you can out tempo them, blah blah blah. But with my specific mono red deck, I run 12 1-drops where most people run 8. So I think it gives you a little leeway when you're siding that you can take these out, which one you think isn't going to be as strong, which one you want to keep, and use them to win is up to you. But this is kind of what I do, and I think they are a really good way to get your sideboard cards in without taking away the core structure of your deck. So yeah, I have here 2 Hellhound, 2 Weasels, 1 Rimrock, because most of your creatures can fight against the rogue creatures. Rimrock isn't so important. And Torbrand, because you don't want your high mana cost cards getting negated, so it's better to just side them out and keep a lower mana cost curve so you can get more cards and more value that way. So that's my tips on the rogue matchup. Alrighty, next, my most hated matchup there is mono green, and this is transformed over the past weeks. Mono green used to be Stompy, and now there's Food, now there's Wicked Wolves, now there's all these things, and I just hate mono green so much. Anything with green, basically, as a red player, it's so hard to get over. Their creatures are humongous. Lovestruck Beast is the bane of my existence. A 5/5, even if it is just a blocker and you kill the 1/1, you still got to get over a 5/5, and like, what are you gonna do? You just have to sit around with an Annex, hopefully get an Ember Cleave, and you get in. But yeah, that's why in this matchup I like to put in some more Phoenix. They don't have really reach in the deck, and they're not gonna sight it in against mono red because they're like, why? I just need to get bigger, or I just need to have a better curve or something. And I think having a flyer is a good way to get over these guys. Something evasive. If your main deck can Kargan Intimidators, that guy's really good against mono green. He can make the 5/5 not able to block you and just get in. So yeah, I would suggest putting in 2 Phoenix of Ash, as well as putting in Soul Seer. Soul Seer is like my kind of tech card that I like. I talked about it last time. I have since then reduced it to 1 because I was doing a tournament and I didn't want to risk it all for that tournament based on like a Soul Seer on turn 3. So I was trying to just get in more with a aggressive creature line and beat them up. But yeah, I definitely think it is really good. It is like the only sideboard card against green that is worth the mana for it. You could do Perverse Intervention, but you're paying more mana than you would for a Soul Seer. And now with the Wicked Wolf, it just makes a lot of sense to run. It gets rid of Indestructible. And yeah, I really suggest checking that card out. It's worked a lot for me. But yeah, I think this is one of the harder matchups just because of the pure stats that the opposing deck has. Alrighty, in the next one, we got Mono Red, and we're gonna kind of just chuck in Gruul Adventures just because they're very similar in like how you play against them. So Mono Red, you kind of have a really good matchup against, strangely enough. It is kind of coin flippy. Like if you go first, you're probably gonna win the set, which kind of feels bad, but you can definitely play around it. And I think it is a really like skill intensive like matchup, to say the least. I think there's a lot of decision points in this specific one that can either make it or break it for the entire set. So that being said, let's just hop into what you would sideboard against mono red. So you just want to put in your red caps, as many as you got in your sideboard. They're really good, and they just kill red creatures really easily. And then you want to put in your Dragon Breath, or whatever, the Scorching Dragonfire, because that just takes care of Annex. And you want to save those specifically for Annex and Bone Crushers if need be. But you really want to like kind of take a little bit of damage if you have to. So they're like, oh, he doesn't have anything. Place an Annex, and you go, blam, gotcha. And you take care of it, and then you're just totally ahead on the whole rest of the game. The red cap melee is really good for killing Torbrands or like things with Embercleave or like some other creatures. You kind of want to wait to use your removal in the matchup because you want them to either spend their mana or commit to an Embercleave and you kill something, or prevent the Embercleave from coming down by killing something, and so on and so forth. Getting rid of Robbers the Rich early is pretty good too. In the matchup, Torbrand isn't so crucial, so you're pretty cool taking him out. He's more like getting you over things and making your board of like 1/1s like super lethal. But in this matchup, you're doing a lot of trades early on to prevent Embercleaves, and it just having Torbrand like isn't as good as say like two drops that you could put an Embercleave on the next turn. So yeah, and I also take out some 1-drops. It's up to you which ones you want to take out. Never take out your Fervent champion, but you could take out, like if you're going second, I like to take out Hellhounds and leave the Weasel Knights in, or if you're going first, leave in Hellhounds, take out the Weasel Knights because you do more damage that way. And it's those subtle things like how do I get the most damage in for the least amount of resources, and I think that's really key in this particular matchup. Gruul is basically the same. You want your red caps to snipe down their Bone Crusher Giants and the 2-drop, the Brushfire Elemental that can get really big. You want to kill that thing before it gets in because you don't have a lot of good blockers against that creature, and that thing can get out of control big. So you want to take care of that as soon as possible. You also want your Scorching Dragonfires because there are a lot of 3 toughness and under creatures. Unfortunately, this deck does run Lovestruck Beast, so you have to play kind of slow and around it. And they also do run Questing Beasts, which is also really annoying. Worst case scenario, you can kill it with a red cap melee. You really don't want it because it can set you back on lands, but if you're flooding, it is still a good option. And yeah, again with this one, you're going to want to take out 3 1-drops of your choice, depending on if you're going first or second, like I said. And then you can take out a Bolt Land. I mean, it's a super aggressive deck, and you don't necessarily want to be bolting yourself. And the stats are so big on it that that land, the chances of it killing something is pretty low. So I would suggest taking that out. If there's something else you want to take out, go ahead. I would just suggest against the Torbrand and the Embercleaves in this one because they are big creatures who need to get over them. Alrighty, let's hop into that next one with the Dimir Control. Now, Dimir Control is a pretty annoying deck to play against. Fortunately, any control deck or ramp deck, Mono Red has a pretty good matchup against, so long as you're doing Mono Red things. If you get land screwed, or if you're getting like just really bad draws, you're flooding or something, that's when you can really lose against these decks. Because that gives them enough time to generate like life or the kill cards. They can draw a bunch and put you in a very tough situation to win and claw back from. So you want to, on these specific matchups, you want to mulligan to where you have a really aggressive hand. Like you need a 1-drop into like 2 Fervent Champions, or you need like Fervent Champion into your Robber of the Rich into like an Annex. You need to have a curve that can like just win and hope it doesn't get interrupted, because otherwise you're going to be put in a very unfortunate situation where you're again in that loop of play a creature, it dies, play a creature, it dies. Now they got a 5/5 Flying Shark. You can't do anything against it. So yeah, these ones you really need to have a good hand to start with, and it is a lot better going first with this matchup as well. So when it comes to siding in, you can side in your creatures that are like sticky. Phoenix of Ash is a really sticky creature. It dies, it comes back, and I think that is really good in control matchups because you are you're kind of okay with it dying, and you waste one of their kill spells for another creature, and you get to bring it back with your creatures that are already being killed. So I think this is a pretty good card, and a lot of the Dimir control decks are now also running rogues They're not just doing just like a million kill cards and negates. So yeah, this one is it's still can be very hard, but that card can help you out a lot. Valaka Exploration is also a really good card in these kind of grindy matchups, where if you want to guarantee that you're not going to flood out and you want to deal damage and you want to draw more, this card is really good in these scenarios. In like the Demir control, or in the Grixis control deck, or in like a Yorion deck, this Valaka Exploration can really help you go from like plateauing to just continually climbing and being able to get over the threats and the harassment that the other deck is giving you. In this deck, you kind of like, I want to say you keep your Hellhounds, but when everything dies so easy to that deck, Hellhounds just don't really do it so much. And having the ability to pump your Weasel Knight is a lot stronger in many situations. If you have just one creature that sticks late game and it's a Weasel Knight, and you put an Embercleave on it and you can pump it, that can win you a game. But if you have a Hellhound, you won't. So that's why I'm more leaning towards the Weasels in this matchup than the Hellhound. And taking out a Rimrock Knight and one Weasel, again, Weasels, you want to have more Weasels than Hellhounds in the matchup. And Rimrock Knight, you don't really have anything that you're really pumping to get around. And that said, like, you don't need necessarily a 3-1 to win this matchup. You kind of need your Robber of the Rich to steal some cards to prevent them from getting advantage and stuff like that, more so than getting an extra 2 points of damage in early on, in my opinion. Let's go down to the next one. I don't like this one at all. Kroxa Rakdos. Man, this deck is so difficult to deal with sometimes that it drives me bonkers. The amount of exile this deck can do, the Death Touch, the discarding, it's all so annoying to deal with, and it's very also like hard to deal with as just mono red in general. For the sideboard, you want to put in 3 Scorching Dragonfires because, I mean, they play Kroxa, you Scorching Dragonfire it, it's exiled. That's enough. That alone right there is worthy of playing the card in the deck. But this deck particularly, they have a sideboard that is pretty good against mono red, and they run the new Scavenging Nighthawk. That guy has Death Touch and Lifelink, so they basically are trying to like have a great blocker against you, flies over you, and heals them. But it's got 3 toughness, so you can just get rid of it with the Scorching Dragonfire, and you're chilling. And then you can decide to run 1 Lantern or 2 if your side deck calls for it. And this is really just to like either exile their whole graveyard so they can't escape anything and you get rid of the Kroxas, and or you're really in a tight spot and you need to draw. So you can pay 1 mana, sack it, draw a card. Again, in this matchup, you want to take out your Weasels because they die to a lot of their removal. They have the Spikefield Hazard in that deck, main board a lot of the time, and that can just kill that guy right away. Same with Hellhound, and you don't need the full 12 1-drops to deal with this deck. You more need your mid-range creatures to beat this deck and an Embercleave. So those are my suggestions on that side. Alrighty, in the next matchup we're going to talk about is the Winona matchup. This matchup, it's not too often, but it can be super explosive, and it is something to watch out for. You definitely want to play against this deck in a certain way. You don't want them to do what they want to do. You want to do what you want to do. So you got to be aggressive. You have to be willing to take trades. You have to prevent them from having their non-human creatures out so that you can get them to have the least amount of value out of their Winona on turn 4. So to do that, you need to push in a lot. You need to go fast. You need to kill their creatures as soon as they get down on the board, and using your Bone Crushers or whatever you got to use, your Rimrock Knights to take some crazy trades. Unfortunately, some of your creatures might have to die, and it's just so worth it to be able to prevent them from getting that Winona down. That being said, there are some sideboard tools that we have at hand. Not a lot, because again, it is a sort of fringe deck. But Soul Seer, that card is really good whenever their invincible creatures come in. You can just blam, Soul Seer. I don't think they have anything that has more than 5 toughness, so you can kill them. Unless it's a Haktos and it has protection from that color or mana cost, then you're kind of screwed. But yeah, other than that, you got the red cap melee, so you can shoot the Bone Crushers. That's kind of it. Winona herself before they can attack. So yeah, that's kind of your side against them. You're going to take out some 1-drops because you're more heavy on that mid game to take care of their bigger creatures and their stuff like that. Yeah, you could put in like some Scorching Dragon Breaths and kill some creatures early on, but that's up to you how you want to take care of it. But yeah, that's kind of just what I do because I think our main board is just good enough against it that you just have to go faster than them to win. Yeah, force them to block, not you be in the situation where you gotta block some indestructible blockers. That's basically it. Rock on. And then this last one, which I don't know why it's last, it should be like number 2 or something, is Yorion. And I'm just gonna kind of encapsulate them all in one Yorion. There's like 4 Yorion decks out there. Like there's more and more every day. They're like nuts. So there's the blue-white generic one where you're just flickering things and get value healing. Or like a top end of like a dream trawler or something like that. Sometimes they run black and white and they do the Doom Foretold kind of package. And then you got to worry about sacrificing things and how to manage your resources with that card. And then they also got like this new green-white variant where they got like all this food generation on life gain, draw, fighting your creatures, flickering indestructible things. It's all really super annoying to deal with, but at the end of the day, it is a slower deck, and Mono Red stomps slower decks. So you kind of like your main board is really good against them, and you are like at the advantage in this matchup. In my like opinion, I don't think you should be losing this matchup often. For example, in this last weekend when I did a tournament, I only lost to other aggro decks with mono red because I drew poorly. But I went against 3 Yorion decks and I beat every single one of them just because, I mean, it's that good of a matchup. You should be winning when they don't have like the tools to stop you early on. They need like at least 5 mana to play Yorion. They need 3 mana on top of that to add it from their extra deck to hand. And then 8 mana, you should already have a board and Embercleave by then. Easily. But when you're sideboarding, this one you don't have to listen to this one as much. The Soul Seer, that is mainly just like if you really hate Yorion, you can put that in and you can kill Yorion when it comes in play. That's 5 damage. Yorion's got 5 toughness. There you go. I normally wouldn't put that in. That was just an idea because I had it in the sideboard if you wanted to do that. Basically, the only thing I put in is Rolling Vortex against these guys. And the reason is I don't want him to heal. If anybody can like heal like 3 points of damage, 4 points of damage back, you're in such a like difficult situation as a mono red deck that you need some way to stop that. Any bit of life gain can completely ruin your whole plan and can shut you down from winning. So having a way to negate that and deal damage to them is so key, and it's so nice. And it feels so good. Just pay red. You don't get a heal. Thank you. And especially against the food ones when they're like, oh, I can out heal this guy. You can't. And you're getting burned. And you just take out some 1-drops because you already have so many that it's going to enable an early Embercleave almost no matter what. So you're not too worried about having 12 1-drops. If you wanted, you could take out a Torbrand instead and like a Rimrock Knight, and then you have more 1-drops, and then you can Embercleave consistently, just a little bit more consistently. It's another way to look at it. But this is what I just kind of got in the habit of taking out some 1-drops and putting in my sideboard cards because there's just so many, and it leaves you a lot of space for siding. Well, alrighty guys, there you have it. That's my kind of matchup guide. If there's any matchups you want to know about, feel free to hit me up in the comments. If you want to come ask some questions on my stream, I stream every Monday through Friday from 8 to 12 p.m. in the mornings. You come in, ask me any question, more than happy to help you. And if you want to check me out on Twitter, I post about like what new cards are coming out that I'm stoked about, when I'm going live, things like that, and love to interact with you guys on there as well. Thanks for watching, and I really hope this guide helps you elevate your mono red gameplay. Next guide is probably going to be on Gruul. It'll be a little bit similar, probably maybe like a 1-part, 2-part series, but that deck is definitely proven to me that it is strong. I've been doing a lot of standard traditional events on Arena, and I have been crushing it. Like each day I win like 2 of them 7 or 5-0, and there's nothing's even like stopping me. Maybe like one rogue will beat me and I'll go 5-1. Cool. So yeah, that's probably gonna be the next one. Maybe after that I'll touch on rogues. Pretty good at the deck. I get a good understanding of it, but I absolutely hate playing it. The games are just so long. But yeah, anyways, thanks again guys. Catch you on the next one.